Hi, everyone. It's Marcia Martin, the Heart Healer. Happy Halloween! And today we're going to talk about masks or disguises that we are wearing. And one of the disguises or the masks that we try to hide behind that can give us the most problem in the world is guilt. Guilt when it's used inappropriately, when it's used to manipulate yourself or someone else. There are times when you did or said the wrong thing, and then you feel badly that you did that. Okay, go apologize, and then let it go. I'm not talking about those times. That's not a mask that you need to take off. What I am talking about are the times when you have allowed someone to manipulate you with guilt, or you've tried to use guilt to manipulate someone else's behavior. That is when we place ourselves out of alignment and we don't hear anything that is being shared with us from the divine. And that's when we get into trouble. That's the place, the territory, when we start trying to navigate life by ourselves, when you kind of feel like life is falling apart. And it's because we were not designed to do this by ourselves. We love other people. We are a social community. And we are here to uplift each other. We've all come with different skill sets so that we can help each other. And we are important to each other because of what we can bring to the table. And everyone has something they can bring. But we're also designed to have unending communication with the divine. Because this is just a journey in experience and experimentation. It is not, I know all the answers and there's nothing more to learn. And so think of God as your teacher, as the greatest possible mentor that you could ever have, who's helping you navigate and find your path. Find the journey that will bring the most satisfaction with the least heartache for you. That's what you get when you're in alignment and you're actually functioning in the highest place for you and not for someone else. And this is especially true for those of you who are parents and feel that you need to constantly manipulate the circumstance for your children so they experience a happy life. We all want our children to be happy. We all want them to be successful. We don't want to see them fall down and go through the growing pains that we may have experienced. But if you truly love them, you will not feel guilty about allowing them to experience all that life has to offer. Of course, you offer them your best advice. You don't just ignore your kids and say, oh, it's okay because they're here to explore. You offer them the very best that you can. And then you step back and you allow them to explore. And if they should fall down, be there to help them get back up. But don't stand in the way of their exploration. They will not appreciate it if you do. So let's take a look at guilt, what our guides have to say about guilt, and then what we can do to make our lives less manipulated by guilt. As I said, there are times when guilt is just the pricking of the conscience saying, you know, that was not a very nice thing to do. You really should rethink that and go make amends. That's fine. I am talking about those other times when you just can't let go of the guilt for whatever reason. So let's take a look at what our guides have to say. How to let go of guilt. Dearest hearts, we come to you today with great hope in our hearts, for if we can help any of you lay aside the burden of guilt, all of you will be better for it. Within the collective consciousness of which you are a part, what one learns, you all learn on some level. Now let's really take a minute, take a deep breath, and feel that you are not alone. You inhabit your personal body, but you are not alone. You are so interconnected with all the beings on this planet with you and in the energetic realm that what you learn actually affects them. There is I think it's called syndrome. There is a syndrome called the 100 monkey syndrome that scientists felt that they could not explain for a really long time. But as a spiritually minded person, you'll understand it immediately. That the theory is this: there is a point where there is critical mass. One monkey may learn how to do a new skill or how to use a new tool. The other monkeys in the group with that particular monkey, those that live in close proximity to the monkey and can see what it's doing, those monkeys may also notice that this particular monkey has developed a new skill. It is using a new tool, and then they may start using that new tool if it proves to be really effective. What happens is that once 100 monkeys begin repeating the use of this tool, begin this new behavior, monkeys that are not close in geographical region will begin imitating the same behavior, even though they have never interacted with the monkey that first learned how to use the new tool. So it becomes critical mass. So much information gets into the mass consciousness by 100 monkeys that it begins filtering out to other monkeys who are receptive to learning new things from the divine. They become led to the rock or whatever tool it is that the monkey that may be hundreds of miles away has learned to use. So that's what's happening for us, but because we have a different way of communicating, a little bit more advanced, it doesn't take 100 monkeys. We are even better at communicating with our fellow humans on the subtle plane of the energetic. It doesn't take 100 of us repeating the same action for us to get enough information into the energetic space so that others can learn it. Oftentimes, it's just one person who becomes so excited and delighted about what they've discovered that they create this vibrational resonance in the energetic realm that then expands and is received by all those who are open. That's why it's so important to be open and so important not to let guilt take up residence in your mind, because guilt is a damper. It's like a black cloud. Nothing gets through if you are taking up all the space in your mind, all of the receptive space with guilt. There is no room for you to receive that which you do want. So, all of you learn on some level. Therefore, if we can help even one of you gain your freedom, all of you will benefit. Guilt is one of the most corrosive of all the negative emotions. Please hear that. Guilt is one of the most corrosive of all of the negative emotions and one of the most insidious. Why? Because you can justify its presence. You can give yourself reasons why you should be guilty, or someone else can give you a reason why you should feel guilty about something that you have said or done. And if you allow it, whether it's something that you have produced or something that someone else has produced and is trying to lay it on you, they can make you feel guilty and feel justified in holding on to that guilt. You need to think of guilt as a child of fear so you understand how sly and deceitful guilt can be. You must never trust feelings of guilt to represent truth, but you must always dig down beneath the energy of guilt to the underlying cause. Doesn't mean that when you feel guilty, it is completely untrue. I read that back and I thought that's kind of how that reads. I need to really make sure that everybody understands. Sometimes you may have a good reason for the guilt and you should do something about it. You should correct the error and let it go. But just be careful to dig down underneath the guilt so that you are not just reacting, but you are understanding why you have chosen to act in the way that you've decided to act. So, all I'm saying is don't leave your brain behind when you're in a conversation, when you're in a relationship, when you're at work, wherever you are. Don't just swallow it because somebody says something. Think about it. Where is this coming from, and do I need to own it? If you do, again, you take appropriate action and you let it go. If you have trespassed upon your own well-being or the well-being of another, then those feelings of guilt are prodding you to do the right thing, the spiritually mature thing, and make right the wrong by apologizing, forgiving, or by engaging in some other form of corrected behavior that stops the hurt or the damage from continuing. A person who is heart-centered has done the work necessary to free themselves from the darkness of negativity, will use guilt appropriately, and allow it to be a tool that guides loving behavior. Now, because guilt is sometimes appropriate, that's what makes it so insidious. I've said this before, I might keep saying that throughout here. I want you to be on the alert. It's not always appropriate for you to feel guilty. Let's think about an abusive relationship. Let's just say that two people are married, Sam and Molly, and Sam happens to have a hair trigger temper, and he chooses to solve his times of anger with his fists, and often the recipient of his anger is Molly. So he hits Molly on a regular basis because he says to her, "It's all your fault. You made me angry." Okay, now there's a very good possibility that Molly could be saying or doing things that are inappropriate and making Sam angry. Or Molly could be choosing to play the victim in the relationship and could be acting in a way that is very timid and also very encouraging to a bully, trying, sort of saying, this is what I deserve, which is certainly a way to attract punishment, even though no one deserves to be hit. And Sam is certainly inappropriate in his choice of handling his anger. So they would really both be acting inappropriately. But if Sam is feeling no guilt after hitting Molly, and Molly is feeling a tremendous amount of guilt for provoking Sam, they are both using guilt inappropriately. Neither one is acting spiritually mature. They are both hiding behind the guilt mask in the wrong way. If they were to use guilt appropriately, Molly may be able to say, I need to stand up and say to Sam, that behavior is inappropriate and you are no longer allowed to hit me and hurt me, and if you do, you will be asked to leave. Maybe Sam will hear it, maybe he will not. Perhaps Molly will need to leave the relationship. Or they will be able to come to an understanding and be loving toward each other. Sam, on the other hand, must stop saying, it's all Molly's fault and she makes me mad and that's why it's okay for me to hit. It is never okay for Sam to hit. That's inappropriate behavior. They are both using guilt inaccurately and trying to justify their behavior even though it's not justifiable. Molly's in this situation because she is not being proactive. Sam is in this situation because he is not acting in a loving manner and he is allowing his bad behavior to run his life. But both may be feeling guilty or trying to use guilt as a way to manipulate the other person. So, that's an example of non-spiritually mature behavior and the use of guilt. You will all have moments when you say or do something that's inappropriate, and that action will make you feel guilty. This is acceptable as long as you correct the inappropriate behavior. Make suitable amends and let go of all guilt from that point forward. This is really important. How many times have you felt guilty, you've apologized to the other person, and then you have allowed the tape to keep playing? Look what you've done. You're such a terrible person. Okay, you made a mistake. You made whatever amends you could make for that mistake, and now you must let it go. If you don't, you are going to attract a circumstance that's much worse. The action was taken, then it was corrected. The wrong was righted, and now you must let it go with a joyful heart. Continuing to beat yourself up over inappropriate action, it's not freeing, it's not spiritual, it's not sanctioned by the divine, and it's not enlightened behavior. Remember, you will hear all sorts of opinions about what is appropriate behavior and what is not. You must go into your heart center where your truth meter is located and ask yourself, does this feel good to me? You are the only authority in your life. But all you're doing when you carry guilt on your back like a 10-ton sack is to consign yourself to negativity, to the lowest vibration, and to unhappiness. None of you rise by chaining yourselves to the darkness, but all of you are capable of rising by letting it go. Let go of the guilt. Don't wear it as a badge of honor. And I guarantee you, you know someone just like I do who was wearing their guilt like a badge of honor and using it as an excuse why their life could not improve. If your life is not able to improve, It is because you've chosen for it not to improve, and you keep thinking thoughts that will prevent it from improving. And I know that sounds harsh, but if you really understand the energetic realm and the spiritual principles, you will understand that you must change the way you are talking and thinking about a situation so that the situation is free to change, or that you are free to change. So if you find yourself attracting the same situation over and over and over again, it is because you're holding on to it, generally through guilt. But they're here to help us. In order to make this practice easy, we have 3 daily activities that will help you spend the majority of your days in the highest vibration of love, joy, and peace. The first spiritual practice we advise you to take part in is that of forgiveness. Beginning with the self. Please don't begin pointing fingers at other people and saying, "You have to forgive me," or "I have to forgive you," while you're holding on to this big black ball of hatred towards yourself. Learn loving acceptance instead of harsh criticism. Here's what's going to happen. As you begin letting go of your self-judgment, your self-criticism, and all of the ick that you've accumulated and used against yourself, you will naturally feel better. You will naturally be more loving. You will be more tolerant of other people. You will be a brighter light in their world, and you'll make it easier for them to let go of their pain. You can't do it for them, but you can encourage them by showing them how great you feel. The reason that we always start with ourselves, first of all, is because we got to be with ourselves 24 hours a day for the entirety of our life. We're not going to be able to close the door and say, "I just need a minute without you," to ourselves. That's not going to happen. So, best to establish a relationship with ourselves that we actually like ourselves. And we cannot control other people. Everyone has free will. So if someone is choosing to be unhappy, you cannot go over to them and say, "I demand that you be happy. It is my decision for you that you now be happy and let go of all of this stuff that's causing you to be unhappy." Not possible and not the right thing to do. But you can go to yourself and say, "We're done with this. We're done with this negative thinking. We're done with this guilt. We're done with the shame and the blame. And we're done with this behavior that's getting us more of the same." And you then can actually make a change because you do have control over your own choices. So you have to begin with you. So, beginning with you, every day, in a quiet time before bed, commit to a daily review. During this review period, take a look at your day. What felt good? What went well? What would you like more of? Tuck those experiences in your heart and wrap them in love. Please begin with what went well. I have started using this practice. It is wonderful. I'll tell you more about that in a few minutes. Now turn your attention to the missteps, those times you could have done better. If they make you feel shame and guilt, they too must be wrapped in love, but instead of holding them in your heart, offer them up to the divine by simply stating, "Please take this burden from me." Then let it go. Allow your interactions with the divine, with Source, to be easy and simple. If you love complicated rituals and that makes you feel more connected to the divine, you, by all means, use a complicated ritual. But understand that you are doing that for you and not for God. All God requires from you is, please take this burden from me, and it's gone. But you have to let it go. You can't be holding on to it with one end as you're asking for it to be taken away from you. So just let it go. If you try to hold on to it or continue to review it by poking and prodding at the problem, you'll create a new energetic attachment to it, and you'll have to repeat the above practice. You'll need to let it go all over again. In the beginning, as you learn to forgive yourself and others for missteps, you'll need to repeat the process over and over again until you're no longer stirring the pot of unwanted memories. Don't go back there. Let it be. Let it go. It's over. You made amends. Move on. You must continue to let go of the guilt until it's out of your mind or until you feel complete. Don't attach to a specific number of repetitions. Continue until you're successful. So, if you need to let go, ask God to take it from you 100,000 million times. Do it. First of all, God doesn't keep score. Secondly, the very first time you try to let go of something that you have carried, it may be quite difficult. You are used to carrying it. You're used to thinking about it and beating yourself up about it or beating up another person over it. So the very first time you decide to let go of something that is heavy that you've been carrying for a while, you might find that it keeps coming back again and again and again because you are still vibrating very closely in alignment with that thing. Keep letting go over and over and over and over until you have successfully moved yourself out of range. The next thing the next time that you choose to engage in this process, you'll be more successful. And every time you use it, it will become easier and easier and easier and easier until it becomes the natural way you do things. That is what you did as a child. Just take a moment and think about a child, the 2-year-old. That 2-year-old self, and we all were 2 at some point, so this is not pointing fingers. That 2-year-old self has learned to talk and to walk and is gaining some independence and is learning, I can have things or refuse to do things. And I like being in charge. And so the 2-year-old will say, no, I don't want to. Or cry and scream and kick and bellow at the top of their lungs if you have said no to them when they believe that this is something that they want to have. Now, sometimes you can distract them with something else that is appropriate for them to have. Other times, you need to just let them kick it out. They just don't want to be consoled. But then, you know what? It runs its course and they've let it go. Learn to be the 2-year-old in your life and just let it go. Actually, 2 is probably not the best. 2 is kind of a stubborn age, so maybe a little bit different age than that. But learn to engage in that childlike behavior, not childish, childlike, where you say, I have to let this go. And then you busily turn your attention to something else that is much better suited for you, and you have been successful in saying, I'm done. I'm moving on into the place that feels good to me. so that my heart can be at peace. So, first, forgiveness. First, what felt good. Then, what happened that didn't feel so great. Those missteps that you need to forgive someone else for or forgive yourself for. Let it go. Now, enter into a period of gratitude. First, you cleared the energetic space by letting go of the misstep by forgiving it in yourself and others. Now you must replace the energy of shame and guilt with the energy of gratitude. Here's the thing that we need to always remember. Nature abhors a vacuum, and it will be filled with something. So, rather than let yourself, your offline self, choose, you be the active participant in your life and say, oh, now I'm free of that burden. Let me fill it with gratitude. Let me get filled up and feeling good so that my old pattern of negativity won't sneak back in when I'm not paying attention. With deliberate and concentrated focus, choose several things for which you can be sincerely grateful. When you cleared away the guilt, you created an open space in your energetic body. As you focus on gratitude, you're allowing the cleared space to be filled with unconditional love. Gratitude is the act of being thankful for all that you have. Vast quantities of things are not necessary for gratitude to be present, but a willing heart is necessary. A heart that has become overrun with guilt is not the pure place that God intended. Now, let's take a moment here and understand what purity is when they first started talking to me about purity and God wanting us to be pure, I felt horrible. I knew I had made mistakes. I knew I had screwed up and hurt people, sometimes on purpose even. And I didn't feel very pure. I wasn't an innocent babe. I had really done things that were not good. So how could I be pure? That's not what God is asking. God is not asking for you to be without a mistake. God is asking for you to be free of negativity. When you free yourself of the low vibration of the negative elements, you become pure. You become open to receiving love, joy, and peace and transmitting that love, joy, and peace to all those around you. So if you hear that God wants you to be pure, that's what is intended, not without a bad thought or bad intention or anything like that. Let's not make this into something that it never was supposed to be. This is why you must forgive yourself, first forgive yourself and all others, so that that which is divine in nature can find a home in your heart. God wants you to feel good. That's the whole purpose of joining with the divine, is to feel good. God wants that for you. All you have to do is want it too. Spend no time making room for negativity or negative thoughts and feelings, and all of your time making room and creating a welcoming space for all that is positive or divine in nature. Each one of you is divine. So for you, this work is not hard or complicated. We are simply returning to who we are. We urge you not to allow it to be anything but easy. If you find yourself feeling confused and overwhelmed, you're trying to make the simple complicated. Therefore, simply let go of whatever belief you're holding that's complicating your thinking. Let it go. Let that be your mantra. If something is hurting you, complicating your thought or your life, or if you're feeling unsure, let it go. Something that I do often is I say, God, I really need help on this. If this is something that I need to hold on to really be thinking about, to make an effort to correct, then please bring it more fully into focus. If this is just me gnawing away at something that doesn't belong to me or I should let go, please take it from my awareness. I don't try to be in charge because I don't know better than God. So I have to constantly keep turning it over. That doesn't mean you don't get to do your part. God can't live your life for you. You're here to learn and to grow, but you have everything you need, and you have a partner in God who will help you decide what it is you need to focus on and improve, and what just needs to be done. So by this point, you have forgiven the confusion that led to a mistake in yourself and all others, and you found several reasons to be sincerely grateful. Now remember, if you keep saying the only thing I can be grateful for is the amount of money that's in my wallet or my bank account, you're going to have a tough time because money is going to ebb and flow. I hope you have extra money, lots of money, always. That's my sincerest wish for all of you. Life is much easier when you are not worried, where am I going to get food for dinner? Of course it's easier. And you can do much more for yourself and the world when your pocket is full of money. However, do not allow the amount of money to determine whether or not you have a reason to be grateful. You have a reason to be grateful if your heart is full of love, if you're breathing, if you're in good health, if your eyes can see. Get down into the real meaning of gratitude and away from, I own a fast car. Okay, you can be grateful if you like fast cars, but if you don't own that fast car and you want it, you can still be grateful. We now advise that you spend considerable time washing and renewing your spirit in this gratitude energy. Washing and renewing. Giving yourself a chance to be enveloped by the spirit of gratitude. Just allow the energy of gratitude to enfold you like a cloak of soft, warm material. Within the confines of this energy, you are safe and loved and automatically elevated to the high place of love, joy, and peace. Let go of the heaviness of guilt and give yourself the freedom to fly. And if you have ever felt guilty, pitiful, angry, hurt, abused, and have had the opportunity to take a breath and say, okay, I can see everything that I'm feeling, or I can feel everything that I'm feeling, and it's making me feel lousy. What's good about my life? What can I find to be grateful for? And you stop focusing on everything that's wrong, and you start focusing on the things that are good, and you automatically feel the entire burden shift and lift, and you take that deep breath, and it's just paradise. That's why you hear so often, let it go, let that burden go, and pick up gratitude. Jesus tells us, put on my yoke. Mine is light. Take off the burdens that you've been carrying and take on my joy, my love, my peace. You will be so grateful that you did. Once you feel warmed and full of gratitude, it's time to extend this energy even further and tap into the eternal source of all power. Now that you've stepped out of blame and guilt and wrapped yourself in soft blankets of all that you're grateful for, it's time to venture forth boldly into love, not romantic love. Letting go of all knowledge of love with conditions, terms, and restrictions. That is romantic, even parental love. Open yourself to receive from Source unconditional love. Now, if you are a perfect parent, you can love your children unconditionally. And I am so impressed with you. If you are a normal parent like the rest of us, there will be times when you're not feeling very loving towards your children. You'll love them on a deep level, but you may not be feeling real loving toward their actions at certain points in your life. So we're going for unconditional love. Love that has no expectation, no qualifying criteria, and no threat of loss. Now, this is also for those in a relationship, in a partnership. You may tell your spouse, I love you, I love you, I love you. But there will probably, again, unless you're the saint, be times in that relationship where you're feeling anything but love for your partner. So we're not going for romantic love. This is unconditional love. In other words, it's love that carries no guilt. Open your heart to receive the blessing of this love as it pours forth from the divine unceasingly and unchanging across all time and space. Allow yourself to be vulnerable, to be childlike and non-judgmental in the presence of this perfection. Allow yourself to merely exist and receive. You have eradicated guilt with forgiveness. You have elevated yourselves to the highest vibration with gratitude. Now, allow yourselves to flow more fully into that space of oneness with all, into the perfect place of peace, by opening your entire being to the unconditional love of God. There is no greater gift you can give yourself. You came here to explore and experiment, to grow and to learn. You did not come here to be burdened by guilt. Step into your fullness by letting go of guilt and replacing its negativity with the high vibrational energy of love, joy, and peace. No guilt for what it is and forgive, but do not make it something it's not. And allow it to be a millstone around your neck. You may have made a mistake. Other people may have made a mistake. Forgive them and let it go. Or forgive yourself and let it go. Move forward. Live free, live in joy, and share your love with all. Please remember, guilt is a monster. It hides behind the mask of caring and concern, when all it's really doing is making you weak and ineffectual. So take a moment to reflect on a time when you were overjoyed. Think about how you felt. How long did that euphoria last? You're overjoyed. Something is so wonderful in your life. And how many people were swept up in your joy? Just take a moment. Maybe close your eyes and bring to mind a time when you were overjoyed. Now, take a moment to reflect on something you did out of guilt, feeling bad, or feeling obligated. How did you feel? How long did that depression, overwhelm, or overburdened feeling last? And how many people did you infect with your gloom? Do you see the difference? Do you see how impactful we are on ourselves and other people? When you were excited and overjoyed when something wonderful had happened in your life and you couldn't wait to share it, everyone around you was lifted up. When you felt guilty, heavy, those few people that chose to be around you felt the pain and the shame, perhaps, and just the heaviness. Oh, they allowed it. But if you were being joyful, there would have been nothing but joy to allow in. So I'm not going to put guilt on you and say it was your fault that they chose to feel depressed, excuse me, with you. But I will say that when you are in your uplifted joy place, you are so much more beneficial, so much more, you're giving so much to yourself and the world than when you are in that low place. Guilt is the child of fear wearing the mask of respectability. Guilt says, I should have done that. That was the wrong thing to do. Let me go make amends. Okay, perhaps that's right. If that is true, always check in with your heart, then do that. And then let it go. Be delighted that you did the right thing. But just let go of the guilt strings that are trying to attach to you. Remember, they told us guilt is one of the most insidious of the negative emotions, and shame is its partner. So let's talk about shame next week, because let's just go through all of these monsters and put them to bed. Time for you to be the glorious, beautiful creature that you came here to be, not the pitiful, weak, destroyed being that doesn't feel you have a voice or a purpose or that you're able to receive joy from your life. That's not why you came, and that's not what I want for any of you. Now, both guilt and shame force you to do something you may not want to do. They rob you of your happiness. They take your joy. And if you did something wrong and you feel guilty momentarily, that's okay. That's when it's the right thing to do. But remember, guilt is a child of fear, and fear is sometimes okay too. Sometimes if you are in imminent danger or your child is in imminent danger, you must act quickly, and you may feel afraid while you're acting. But the fear motivated you to get going instead of sitting around thinking about it. But if you were to stay in a state of fear, you would be completely unable to act. You would just become overwhelmed and overburdened. Same thing with guilt. Recognize when it's appropriate, take the right action, and then let it go. Don't wear it like a badge of honor. I really want to encourage you to get into the habit of doing this daily bedtime ritual. Now, I'm going to share my experience with you, but before I do, star 2, if anyone has a question or is dealing with a situation that is causing them to have a tremendous amount of guilt and they are having difficulty finding a way to release it. Just right here in this moment, let's take a breath. Enter into the heart space and ask yourself, am I carrying guilt? Am I carrying a heavy load of guilt? If the answer is yes, why do I then ask yourself, why am I feeling guilty? What did I do, think, feel, say? What caused me to feel guilty? Once you have discovered whatever it is, the next question, do I need to do something about this? Does this need to be corrected, this thing? If you need to correct it, do so, either in the spiritual, in the energetic plane, or on the physical plane. Take an action so you can be relieved of this. If there is nothing that you can do, now ask yourself, am I ready to let it go? Am I done punishing myself? If you're not ready to let it go, you need to get into the heart and do the work, the heart work to let it go. But if you are ready, just ask the angels to come right now and help you release this burden of guilt. Wash you clean. Fill you with Holy Spirit light, with gratitude. Because you know that as long as you're feeling guilty, and there is no reason attached to it, you're holding yourself in darkness and you're depriving the world of your beautiful light. So not only are you hurting yourself, you are hurting all those around you by holding on to guilt that you believe is the appropriate action. All right, so take a deep breath, and now, again, star 2, if anyone needs to share a circumstance that is heavy on their heart. And let me tell you how this has been unfolding for me as a bedtime ritual. So I usually wait to do this until I'm snuggled under the covers because it feels nice and cozy. And then I begin with what felt great today, what went right, what am I excited about, joyful about, what just lifted me up. Or even sometimes, what can I be proud of? What did I do that would have made me feel really proud of myself? And for me, that's usually sharing knowledge that I know with someone who was hurting and helping them to feel better about themselves. So that's generally the things that I feel really proud of myself. But not always. There are other things that come up. And so that's the way I begin relaxing myself, is just, it feels like a hug. What did I do that was great today? And then even though they have told us just to kind of tuck that in our hearts, it immediately, for me at any rate, causes me to be so extremely grateful for those events, for those things that happened, for those people that helped make my day even better. So then I have a period of just basking in the gratitude that I am feeling for whatever good thing happened. And I have to tell you, more often than not, I fall asleep at that point and do not do the rest of the exercise. However, when I do the rest of the exercise, the next thing that I would do is, okay, where did I have a problem? What happened that made me feel like, ooh, could have handled that better? And I look at it and I think to just take a moment to think to myself, if I had done X or Y or Z, would I feel better about this moment right now? I kind of review it and see what will make me be at peace. And then once I'm at that place of peace, again, I enter into that state of gratitude. I forgive myself for making the error. If it was someone that responded to me in a way that felt not so great, then I forgive them and try to be them for a few minutes and understand what's going on in their life and how I could help support them. It doesn't mean that I may not choose to exit out of their life on a daily basis if they have become caught in a loop that they don't want to be free of. Then it may be impossible for me to stay in a relationship with them without hurting myself. And at that point, I recognize I need to remove myself, at least for now, and encourage you from a distance. Perhaps that will help you make better choices for yourself and choose to love yourself instead of engaging in this other behavior. Okay, so then I have forgiven, and with that forgiveness, again, another huge wave of gratitude, feeling of, just a feeling of I'm free. I am honored. I feel honored because I feel free and uplifted and just in a good place, in that beautiful place of love, joy, and peace. Because remember, first, I've got all warm and fuzzy about everything that went well. Then I entered into that, okay, let me review the things that may not have gone so well and get out of guilt and fear over them. And now in a place of gratitude. So I've returned to the warm, fuzzy, snuggly place. And then I open myself up because now I'm pure again. Now I have no blocks. I'm in the place of love, joy, and peace. I've eliminated the darkness, or at least the darkness that was available for me to see at that moment. And so I can more fully open myself up to the unconditional love from the divine that has been pouring forth unceasingly since the beginning of time and will continue unceasingly forever. But yet, suddenly, because I've let go of the negativity, I am now in a place where I can fully receive it. So I lay myself bare and stand under the waterfall of the unconditional love that has always been pouring forth that I was not previously able to receive. Because the darkness in me prevented it from coming, from me being in a place of receivership. Suddenly, I am open where I was closed before. So it's this beautiful, wonderful, uplifting way so that as you drift off to sleep, you have opened and solidified your connection with the divine. And so the entire night you are receiving, and in the place of receiving, beautiful, wonderful downloads of love. And if there could possibly be a shortcut to happiness, this would be it. Go to sleep feeling connected to God and to Source and receiving their unconditional love? Absolutely. Now, on the days that I fall asleep, when I've only started the process by what went right, I am still connected with God. I am still stepping in to that wonderful place because I step into a place of joy where God dwells. And I fall asleep, basically being held in the arms of God because I'm wrapped in a cloak of joy. So either way, but if it is important, if there was a misstep in your day and you feel it hanging heavy on your heart, release it so that you can then step under the waterfall of unconditional love and receive it while you're sleeping, while you're open and vulnerable. And you will wake up refreshed, renewed, and restored with wonderful information to guide you through your day. Feet firmly planted on that path of positivity. So one last chance, *2, for anyone that wants to share their guilt or share even the way they choose to go to sleep so that they go to sleep with a happy heart that is uplifted. All right, well, that is all the time that we have for today. I want to thank you all for being here again. Happy Halloween, and remember, if you were the victim of sexual trauma, I want to talk with you. I offer a free 30-minute session from victim to victorious where we talk about what happened, where you want to go, what's stopping you from getting there, and you have that opportunity to feel renewed and restored and inspired to get back on track. So contact me, Marcia, M-A-R-C-I-A, Marcia at marciamartinthehearthealer.com. Send me a message. I need to talk with you. I was a victim. I want to be victorious. Let's get this happening for you. Let's explore everything that is here for you now. All right, everyone. Until next Wednesday, I'm sending you all my love.